Howdy, my friends, and welcome into today's episode of Forte Catholic. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm back after a week off last week for our family vacation. We had a blast. I'm back much more rejuvenated. I have a great show for you today with Kathryn Whitaker. We talk about vacation and the importance of taking a break every now and then, finding some rest. We also talk about, she had a lot of graduations and a lot of things happening with her kids. So we talked about graduations and big life changes and people moving on and that sort of thing. And then we also talk about marriage and the best advice that we have for young young couples that are going to be married, engaged couples, because both my wife and I and Kathryn and her husband have been sponsors for couples that are engaged and preparing for marriage. So we talk about some of the things that we've learned, good and bad, through that process. We hope that you enjoy today's show. If you do, please hit subscribe wherever you're listening or all over on our YouTube channel. Enjoy today's show. What's up? Welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll. That is Kathryn Whitaker. Kathryn, hi.
Howdy.
Been
a bit.
I've been saying this a lot with more on Father Anthony episodes just because his life has been so busy. But you and I work together on multiple projects, and yet we haven't spoken since our last recording because we've been busy. You know, my whole family's been falling apart. You've been having graduations and all sorts of things. So end of school year, we haven't talked much. So I'm very much intrigued about catching up with you here.
I know I've only sent you like 20 emails, and I'm like, Taylor and I will eventually talk at some point.
They're all flagged for answer when you return from vacation, and I just returned from vacation, so I'll email you back at some
20
point.
Ding, 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 as they all light up. Yeah. We've been busy.
We both had quite a bit. I just got back from vacation, people that are listening. So the last episode that we ended, I was like, I'll be back next week. Actually, I probably won't. I'm going on vacation. We'll see what happens. And you all saw what happened. Nothing got posted last week, but now we're back. I'm going to share about my vacation, but since I haven't talked to Kathryn in a while, I figured we'd let ladies go first. And because we've established that you and Allison both have like a total combined like 28 kids or something like that. So you've had a lot going on. You've had school ending and graduations and travels to and from College Station. You've had, graduations there locally. So your life's been a whirlwind. What's been going on?
I think the better question is, what haven't we done in the last 29 days? What all did we do? We had 2 graduations, so college and high school. We had 2 sacraments, first communion and confirmation. We had prom, final review, which is like a big military review for our oldest son. It was sort of his last event for his time at Texas A&M. Add in about 17 billion concerts, end of year programs, all that stuff. And then the finale, go big or go home, was Project Graduation, which was an all night celebration, which I decided to chair about a year ago. So yeah, pretty much nothing. We haven't really, that's nothing. Oh, and birthdays. We had 2 birthdays too.
So why do you, this is a question as much for me as it is for you, but I want to hear your answer and see if it helps me. This isn't even about the audience anymore. This is just Taylor learning from my more wizened co-host, Kathryn. Why do you keep saying yes to taking over things?
Well, I'll tell you, that one so I have this philosophy that it's either a no or a hell yes. If you're just a lukewarm yes, you should say no. But that one was a hell yes for me. I had a graduating senior. We kind of revamped the whole tradition, and I wanted it to be really good. Our seniors had a little bit of a rocky start to their senior year. Plus, these are like the COVID kids, right? So these were the kids their freshman year of high school. They started, and then it got interrupted. So they've had like this weird high school experience, and I just wanted to send them out the door with a lot of love. So it was a hell yes for me, which quite frankly, because I said yes to that, it made me way more organized for all the other 18 million activities that we had going on because I've been planning it for so long and I knew that other things had to be done. I'm type A by nature, so I'm a list maker, happy to do it, color code and everything. But it was really good for me because I finally got things in order. And then it was nice to stay up. Honestly, it was really fun to stay up all night with 61 18-year-olds. I know not very many people would say that, but it was so much fun.
So what the 2 main takeaways that I have from what you said are actually the same takeaway, just for 2 different reasons. The last month, it sounds like you enjoyed going back to high school. you went back to high school. It taught you things like making lists and prioritizing, and it kind of was the thing you centered your life around. And then you also liked partying with high schoolers late into the evening. You have just really enjoyed going back to high school for a year.
Yeah, thankfully it wasn't my high school. I'm not sure I would go back to my high school, but this one was fun. And plus we had like really cool people. So if you follow Bernini Magic on Instagram, Giancarlo Bernini, he's an amazing magician. He's also a really faithful Catholic. And that's what we kicked the night off with. And I think it really kind of got, I don't know, I think it kind of got things going off on the right way. So it was a month full of like a lot of joy. And to be honest, I think I only teared up a couple of times. Like
Whenever
truly,
you
like
couldn't figure out the magic trick, you're like, just can't figure it out. How did he do it?
no, trust me, there was one time that I'm like, I'm gonna have to walk out of the room because this is blowing my mind. Like I can't do this. But
Giancarlo's a longtime friend of the show. I think I think he is
so
somehow both of these things at once. A very good Catholic man, and he does his trick through the help of Beelzebub. Like there are demons involved. There have to be because he's that good at it. It's unbelievable.
It's
And
really
I've told
good.
him this multiple times. I was at like a private house party where Giancarlo performed a few months ago. And I almost punched him in the throat because I think there's demons. It just has to be. There's no
He's
other
so
way to
good.
describe some of the stuff he does. He's very, very
He's
talented.
good. Yeah, I mean, I think when we started to get like the sacraments, I teared up a little bit, but when we started getting into stuff like Project Graduation, and honestly, I was telling someone, I said I was so happy I forgot to cry. Like that's really how it was with both of the graduations. Like we finally hit this really sweet milestone and everybody around was so happy. So I was like, well, I'll cry later. And I did. Like there were a couple of mornings that I just sobbed in my shower. By the way, if you need to cry, that's
Oh,
a
like
real
going
kid
back to high
place to do it.
school.
Yes, sobbed in my shower. You know, I wouldn't say that I was the biggest fan of high school. Yeah, no, so much. But this high school experience was a lot of fun. So I really loved seeing my kids be excited about the next thing, you know, what's coming up for them next, to close a chapter. And because I think we've had graduates before, granted, it was our first college graduation, but we've done the graduation thing before. And I think so some of the fears or like the unknowns, while every kid is different, it's really nice to know that what's to come is just going to keep getting better. So I keep telling moms and dads of younger kids, like, just hang on, because with each passing year, it just gets sweeter, more fun. They become like these grown human beings who you can have an even deeper relationship with. And it's pretty fabulous. So I think I knew that was coming. But yeah, I'm not sure I could survive another May. My husband and I looked at each other on May the 29th and we're like, okay, I'm just absolutely wiped out. But that was the best month ever. So then we decided instead of doing like 4 different parties, I crammed them all into one and I put a sign out front that said, congrats on it all. So in our house, we had like first communion cookies, confirmation cookies, a graduation cake. Like we had it all. It was so much fun.
That's fun. That
Yeah.
sounds like a blast, but it's also kind of similar on my side where it's there has been a lot of excitement and emotion, mostly positive, but yes, it's like when things
Yeah.
come to an end, there's usually some tears and that sort of thing. We right before I went on vacation, we had our baccalaureate mass. It's like
Yeah.
we have to make fancy Catholic words that we make the Catholic students learn one last Catholic word before they leave. But essentially, like the graduation mass is like they're sending off with mass. And the way that our school does it is that there's the baccalaureate mass on Thursday evening, and then graduate, and that's with every school is invited. The public school kids can come and come into the church for the and all that sort of thing. And then our school graduation is the same place the next night. But I knew that I wasn't going to be there the next night because we were going on vacation. So I was like, and the graduation, last year's graduating class was probably the closest class that I'd ever been with. I'd ever been with a class because they were 6th graders when I started. So I was with them 6th through 12th grade. And I talked about it all last year around the same time, about a year ago. I was their coach. I was their campus minister. I was their small group leader. I was their confirmation sponsor. I was kind of everything, for better or worse in their case for them. And then this group of kids, it's like, I got really, really close to them. Like I was no longer really like their campus minister or whatever, but I was still primarily their coach. Like three of our big Trek kids were graduating. And one of the things that I did when I was a campus minister is I sang for their masses, like for their school masses. Well, I haven't done that in forever. It's so weird to me. I didn't even realize this, that when I went to go sing for this mass, It is the first public mass that I have sang for, I think, since COVID.
That's a long time.
I know. I've sang for like 3 like private masses, like at our 3 men's retreats, or a couple masses at each of our men's retreats, like 3 of those. But that was for like 10 people in a house. It wasn't like a public in a church. Like, I don't think I've sang for a mass since COVID. Like, maybe I'm just forgetting one, but like I knew that I was going to miss their graduation. So I was like, the gift that I'm going to give to them is like, one,
nice.
like my time and my presence. I'm going to be there for the baccalaureate masses. I can't be there for the graduation, but I'm going to sing. And it was really cool. I got to sing with some of my like former students. And then we got to sing, for God, obviously it's mass, but like that was my gift to them, was to sing for their graduation mass. And it was just one of those things where it's like, kind of like the too happy to be sad thing. Like, we had all joked, last month when we were talking about track stuff, like we all cried every tear that we had. Like me and this one girl in particular on the team, like, do not cry. And like, she barely shows emotion at all. And I usually just have happiness or anger. Like, those are my 2 that I kind of go-tos, right? But like, we all bawled for hours after the track stuff, during track stuff, after track. So like, by graduation, we're just like, I mean, we had our high. We had our peak. Like now we're coming down the mountain. We're kind of halfway, like we're towards the end of our hike here, right? We're down at the bottom, almost back at base camp. And it was just one of those things where, and like we had that, and then I went on vacation. We'll talk about vacation here in a bit, but one of the things connected to kind of some of the similar things that you had with graduation is that like there was so much ending. Like, track was ending, the season was ending, these seniors were ending, our school year was ending, our kids, my kids' school was ending. We're getting to the end, hopefully, of our kids being in cast. Like, this whole season that we've been in, that's been like really stressful, like we're to the end of it, to the point where I was just kind of like out of emotions, where I was just like, I'm just like generally content, but I wasn't like, it was really hard to like get excited for things or like be sad about things. I was just like, I am out. I have run out of emotions. And it wasn't like a depression, where it wasn't like I was out. I didn't even have bad emotions. It was just kind of like, congratulations, you graduated high school. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, you did it.
Taylor, I hope you didn't say that.
Oh, I did, because they're all like, that was like, this is what we expected to happen. Like, we already did the thing that we didn't really expect to happen. We won state and track. That was new. We graduate every kid that comes through the school every year. I mean, like, it's not a surprise. They're like, hey, you did it.
But, I have this theory. I think that, well, it's just my own little theory here, but I think that over the course of, we'll just use a high school graduation as an example, that there were lots of really poignant moments. Baccalaureate mass actually was very touching for me. And I had baccalaureate as a public school kid, so I don't think it's unique just to Catholic schools. But I think God gave us like these little moments of pause and reflection that you sort of like. Sometimes you choke up and tear up, but sometimes you just pause and think, "Man, this is really good."
Yeah.
But your heart is like super tender. But then when we got to the big thing, like when we got to graduation, I think like you, I don't necessarily think that I was tapped out of the sadness, but I think I was finally ready to be joyful. Like, it was almost like
Mhm.
he gave like parceled out moments of reflection, so that when you get to the moment where you finally do it, that you're like, gosh dang it, this is amazing. And we should be like high-fiving each other. And so I think that's a real gift that you get towards the end, that he sort of parcels out, at least for me, parceled out some of those really tender moments. And on graduation day and even the sacramental day, like, man, I was all smiles. It was so great. I love that you were finally able to sing for them. I think you're a great musician, so that must
Well,
have been
thank
a
you.
really special gift for you to give to them.
It was really good. It was cool. It was like good. Kind of, it felt like it was good to be back. It was good to like share
Yeah.
this gift with them. To like kind of, it was a reminder of like where we all started. Like, we all started in this room. It was in the church. It was in this room that we all kind of met and started having a relationship. And then this season of it ended, right? And now
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, because both of especially the 2 girls. It was one of the things that we have at our graduation is, I mentioned in the class last year that I was really close with them. Well, they all told me, so for some reason the baccalaureate mass is at 6 on Thursday night, and then graduation's at 5 on Friday night. Well, I asked the boys, which I shouldn't have done, but I
Bad
asked them
idea.
last year, what time is your graduation? And they all told me 6. So I showed up at 6 and I'm walking in. What are they doing? Standing on the back steps of the church, throwing their little headpieces, whatever they're called, up into the air. I was like, what are y'all doing? They're like, it's over. I'm like, you told me it was 6. I'm 5 minutes early. It's 5:55. So I missed their graduation. And so one of the things that they do at graduation is they give every senior like 4 or 5 roses to go and give to like adults that had an impact on their life. So typically it's like one for the parents, one for like maybe the grandparents or something. And then they'll go give it to like the teacher that was really impactful for their life, or a coach, or, like their confirmation sponsor, like somebody in their friends or family, or whatever. Right. But the seniors get to pick I forget how many, it's 3, 4, 5 roses or whatever that they get to give out. So pretty much every year that I've gone to graduation, I've gotten one. There was one year I didn't, and I was like, I'm going to boycott this. I'm never coming again. If I'm not getting a rose at graduation, what's it even about? So, but like last year,
it's clearly about me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I work here. I opened the doors. Like, if nobody's going to give me a rose for doing my job, but last year, like those boys like looked for me during the rose part to like, they come give the rose. They like say, the teachers train them. They're like, thank you for this, and this.
And what I find interesting, but none of them thought, hey, we told Taylor 6, it's actually 5. So here's the moral of the story. Ask a girl, because they got to get ready, and they are definitely not going to miss being on time.
100%. Like that was my mistake, was asking specifically the boys. But this year, like I didn't tell them I wasn't going to be at graduation until after the mass. So after mass, we were all standing. It's a cool community, right? And this is kind of the last little thing that we're all doing together, other than graduation. So we're all there for like an hour after mass, back in the back of the church or outside the church or whatever. So right before they leave, I called those 3 over, the 2 girls and the boy. I was like, hey, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Like this, I'm sorry, I'm going to miss your graduation. We're going out of town. This is for our family vacation. But this, I want to tell y'all congratulations. And I had something to say for each of them, right? Like I'm really proud of you. Right. And, the 2 girls were jokingly mad, but they were like sad. They were like, oh, like you're not going to be here tomorrow. Like we were going to give you a rose. Like they told me then, because they knew I wasn't going to come, like both of them. So we would have had our moment on Friday. Right. So I was just like, I know I'm not going to be there. I want to tell you now. So I got a hug from both of them, and they were, we had our rose moment there. Right. And then it was really funny. I drive to vacation, and we, on Friday evening, sometime after graduation, they both like, we've been in a text thread where it's the 3 of us, right? It's me. We all have iPhones, so we're just in like an iMessage thread where it's me and they're both named Claire. It's the 2 Claires, right? We've been in threads before where we're sharing little jokes, or we're like they were like the leaders on the team. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be 5 minutes late. Y'all start warm ups or whatever. But what was really funny is they both texted me separately, like within like an hour and a half of each other, like after graduation kind of had died down. They both texted me an emoji of a rose and said something to the effect of like, hey, I wasn't able to give you my rose. I'm getting goosebumps. It's just so cute, right? These girls, they're girls, so sweet.
Man. The boys didn't do that, did they?
Right. Nope. Yeah. The boys were like, you're late. You're an idiot. Like I was like, it's your fault. Take some responsibility, you grown up, So I kind of joked, and she was like, thanks for being a good coach, blah, blah, blah. And like an hour and a half later, the other Claire texted me an emoji of the rose. I'm like, oh, like Claire, the other Claire must have talked to you about this. She's like, no, I just did it. They both separately decided to send me an emoji of a rose. And it was like just really meaningful, right? That like, it's we joked earlier, I was making it about me, but it's like, it's their big day. I'm not there. We had our moment the day before, and both of them still were like, I'm going to do something nice for my coach. And I was like, it was so nice and so affirming for like, I mean, yes, like all throughout the year, I sacrifice my time and I go and I be with, it was just a really nice affirmation of like the impact that I've had on these young ladies, right? So
I love teenagers. They're great.
Oh, they're the best. I'm gonna isolate that audio and send it to your kids whenever you're yelling at them. I love teenagers.
Teenagers are amazing.
You could pray with it. I love teenagers. Just fake it till you make it, right? Then it was really funny. Like 2 days later, I'm making a run to Brookshire Brothers, like it's like every small town in Texas has a Brookshire Brothers. Like Walmart has all the big cities, right? But Brookshire Brothers is like, we're going to go everywhere Walmart doesn't want to go because there's like 9 people in this town. So I walk into Brookshire Brothers to go get water, or, like a case of water for our vacation. First thing I see is just like a 12 feet long case of roses. So what do? I go and I get 2 roses. I take a selfie and I send it to him.
Aww.
And I'm like, hey, I received the roses that y'all sent. It was just a really cool moment that I got to celebrate these seniors, even when I wasn't there. And it was just kind of wrapping a bow kind of on that graduation weekend. But you had one finish college. You've got one off the books. I didn't even realize that. I knew you had a high school one.
Technically not. So he's going to graduate school.
Oh, no. What a failure. Get out of graduate school. Go make some money, kid. Get off your parents' dime.
Yeah. So technically not, although he is on a full scholarship. So we are grateful for that. So, but yeah, probably 2 more years before I can really claim one is actually really and truly off the books. But really proud of him because he's doing what he loves. And so it's easier to let them go when you know that they're doing something that they love. So he's home for this summer for like another, I don't know, couple months. And then we ship him off to Kentucky, which is going to be weird.
So next year, leaving schools. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So we'll be 6 kids in 6 different schools next year. But 3 different colleges.
You'll still have one at A&M, right?
We will. Sophomore.
Because he just finished his freshman year. That's right.
Yes.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about my vacation kind of rest and how good it was. It was actually really good. Everybody that's been listening for the last month knows that it was a very stressful month. But
the most important question is, did anybody come back with a broken arm?
They did not. And we had both kids that had broken arms, like couldn't do all the water activities, but like they had these little like sleeves, they look like Mega Man. I don't know if people still get that reference, but we put essentially like these bazookas around their arms so they couldn't get wet. And we all ended up having a good time. But before we get into that, I want to read you something that was a huge affirmation for me that happened. I got affirmed because of you.
Oh, this is fun. Okay, let's hear it.
So I didn't tell you this happened. I'll tell you her name off air because I didn't tell her I was going to talk about it because I wasn't kind of planning on it. But we're in an affirming moment, so why not?
Yeah.
She said, "Hi there. My name is..." Her name. She said, "I'm a silent listener and viewer, but I was listening to one of your recent podcasts with Allison, and you briefly mentioned that you were previously feeling some, quote, is this all even worth it? Is this even reaching anybody?" Like meaning the podcast. It was during that stressful time where I was like, what is this even worth it or doing anything, right? And she said you were feeling those kinds of feelings, and then all these people came out of the woodwork to show support. She said, well, hello, because this is her coming out of the woodwork to show support. I didn't know she existed until she sent me this message. She said, here's me showing support. I'm a very recent convert. I came into the church last month at the Easter Vigil, and I've been so enjoying your show. I found you through Kathryn Whitaker. And just started going back and listening to all you've put out. It's nice to find you at episode 330 because there's lots of backlog that I could go listen to. And she said, I just wanted to say that you make this feel so tangible and achievable. It can feel very overwhelming coming into this incredibly centuries-old tradition with so much to learn, but you are so down to earth, and it makes me feel it makes it feel truly so real. And I appreciate that. I hope you have a fantastic day. And then she said, I'm praying for your kids that broke their arm and your vacation. And I'm just like, what? Like,
that was nice.
Just completely out of nowhere, just all this kindness. She throws in it was, yes, affirmation for me, but then she just bounces off to you and to Allison. And I just thought it was so very nice that somebody from your community is now part of our community, and they made my day.
Well, that's all. You know what? I often say that the people that are in like my little blogosphere of the interwebs are just really kind, compassionate, and incredibly amazing people. So I'm glad that one of them reached out to you. That's awesome.
Well, the show has gotten a lot nicer since you've been around because the other people that were here before,
they were terrible.
Just make fun of me and poke the bear. So
I still do that. I just don't do it all here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we're gonna take a little break. Whenever we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit about my vacation and some rest and how I very much needed it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We have a pretty cool announcement today. As many of you guys that have been listening for the last year or so know, we started doing Forte Catholic Renew men's retreats. We are hosting them at the these 2 locations that we have access to through our friends over Paul George and his ministry at the Art of Living, and a beautiful house in southern Louisiana and a ranch house over in central Texas. But the cool big news is not only are we doing 2 additional men's retreats this fall, but we are also adding for the first time ever a much asked for women's retreat. A lot of times these guys were coming on retreats and their wives were like, hey, I want to go on one. So my wife will be running the first ever Forte Catholic women's retreat this fall. They are all still invite only. We're not like sending out like mass, not just anybody is invited, but because you listen to the show, if you would like to come, like if it's one of those things that you would enjoy a weekend retreat and you can make it to southern Louisiana, we have a couple of weekend options this fall. Just let me know. Shoot me an email. Shoot me, if you follow us on social media, whatever, get in contact with us, or shoot me an email at taylor@fortecatholic.com. We're mostly inviting people from like the Texas, Louisiana area because we know it's easier to get there. But even if you live far away and you think you can make it down to southern Louisiana, we'd love to have you guys join us on retreat this fall. So again, more information, fortecatholic.com, but shoot me an email or a message on social media if you'd like me to reach out to you with more information about the retreats. Thanks. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll. That is Kathryn Whitaker, and I'm back from vacation, and boy, was it perfect timing. Just 2.5 weeks of hell, and then just like, hey, we're leaving. For better or worse, we're just dropping our life, and we're going to go to a beautiful lake in the piney woods of Texas. So this is our family vacation, which it has been called family vacation since I was a child. So my parents have a timeshare, and we it's in New Orleans, but we essentially traded in, and all throughout our life, we essentially were like, wherever we can drive to, we're going to trade in our timeshare and go to, somewhere in Texas or Louisiana or Florida or Arizona or California, anywhere we can drive in the summer. And we still call it family vacation, but it's like, as we've gotten older, it's starting to become like the early forms. I don't know what point a family vacation becomes a family reunion, like how many people, because it started just with the core 5 Schrolls, like me, my 2 sisters, and my parents. And then I got married. So we had, or I guess when we were engaged, my now wife started coming. So we've been married 11 years. So she probably started coming on vacation 12, 13 years ago. And then we added a kid, and then we added another kid, and then we added another kid. So then we went from having 2 different units to now we have 2 units with 4 rooms, 1 room for my sisters, 1 for my parents, 1 room for me and Sam, and 1 for our kids. And then my sisters decide that they want to grow the family too. So one of them gets married, and then we have another unit for them. And then my other sisters got engaged, and they're getting married in a couple of months. So now they have their unit. So now, what do you think? Is it still family vacation, or is it family reunion at this point?
That feels like a family reunion. Family vacation is just your nuclear family, like you, your wife, and your kids. That's a family vacation.
When you start adding a ticking time bomb here recently,
and when you add everybody else, that's a reunion, because those aren't people you live with anymore. If you're vacation with people you live with, that's a family vacation. That's my opinion.
Well, Kathryn Whitaker has decided that this is now our family reunion. So we've been doing this every year. So we tend to go places, especially because we have little kids now. We go places that are relatively close. So we go to Canyon Lake, which is a beautiful lake close to San Antonio. And then we go to a lake by Tyler. We go to a lake by Dallas. And this time we went to, it's called Lake Palestine. I thought of you.
Palestine. It's Palestine.
We drove through Palestine. I thought of you. We had a lot of people that talked like you over in the piney woods over in East Texas. I actually texted you a picture of when I thought of you. Did you remember what I sent you?
Was it the Dr. Pepper?
It was the Texas bingo. Dr.
Oh, that's right.
Involved.
The Texas. No, I think you texted me that on graduation day, so it was sort of a blur, but I do remember that now. Yeah, sorry.
So it was regular bingo, except harder, because instead of having B 1 through 15, then I B 16 through 30, it was just completely random words that had to do with Texas. It was Astros, Rangers, Piney Woods, Beach, Dr. Pepper, Buc-ee's. And so we thought about you just about every day because we played Texas bingo 5 of the 7 days. But yeah, it was just this beautiful getaway, and we all, it's these cabins. So like we had a unit, and like my sisters and their guys had a unit, and then my parents had a unit, and we spent the whole time. My dad brings his boat. We go out on the boat. There's 5 pools, and there's putt, and there's a water park. There's just all the amenities, right? And it's just such a cool place to just go and be, right? So like we weren't like completely off the grid. Like I still did have some work to do, especially towards the beginning of the week, like just kind of automating some stuff I still have clients, still have stuff that needed to go out, but like it was some work, and I still had my phone. It wasn't a complete unplug, but it was like a lot slower pace of life where it's like, instead of having 5, 6, 7, 8 things I need to accomplish at work today, it was like 1 or 2 a day. And and just kind of like a mindset of like, if somebody gets mad at me, whatever, just deal with it. I'll deal with it Monday when I get back.
I often say like vacation Kathryn is summer Kathryn super fun to be around, because the things that really rile her up during the regular year on vacation and when she's on a break, I'm like, that's fine. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
So you were Vacation Taylor. Vacation Taylor, everything's fine.
I really was. And I think I hit Vacation Taylor, like we left on a Friday. I think I hit it on like Wednesday because I had all these plans of like.
You were like I-35 traffic. You started a couple of days before it really got bad.
Exactly. I was like, I'm going to record a podcast for next week. I'm also going to record a Catholic Perspective video. And I'm also going to record, and I'm going to schedule it all to release while I'm gone. And then I was like, nah, I'm just going to release old episodes from 2017 again. I got nothing left to give, but it was great. And like on the way there, so I started listening to a book called Get Your Life Back by John Eldredge. Have you heard? You've heard of John Eldredge, haven't you? He's okay, maybe not. He's bigger with like Christian men because that's like his like main ministry.
I don't fit into that category.
Christian men. But there was a women's one. Have you heard of Wild at Heart? I would imagine your boys heard of Wild at Heart because it was really popular around the time. Probably like, yeah. So it was like a how to be like growing into becoming a man. It's like a big becoming a Christian man. What does it mean? And like, there's the world's version of becoming a man, but then like becoming a Christian man. It's like John Eldredge wrote like the leading book on that. He's a very popular. He was a counselor by trade, but now he's like not Catholic. He's like a non-denominational like speaker and like mostly author. And he's written a bunch of devotionals and stuff too. Just like a super holy man that like understands counseling, but also like growing in the spiritual life and what it means. He's now he's old and super nice and just lives out in Colorado and writes books that help me in my life, right? But I started reading this book called Get Your Life Back, and I was listening to it on the way there, like on audiobook. And it was just very funny that like it's all about like our lives are too busy and that we have too much input and we need to take a break. I'm like, well, I'm heading into this week where I have some opportunities to do that because I have been kind of going, and there was some stuff from in the book that really stuck out to me. He said that in a single day, like just in a normal day of an average American, and I would say when it comes to media consumption, I think I'm an above average, if not on the higher side, because I'm either consuming media that I am producing or consuming media
producing content.
Yeah. So there's a lot of media going in these eyeballs and ears pretty constantly, right? But he said that we take in 34 gigs, like gigabytes of information or media a day, the average American. And I was like, I'd upload 200 a day. I download 200 a day just doing work stuff, right? But he was talking about just on our phones, on when we're working, TV, video games, but even stuff like the radio in the car or like stuff that we see in the car. Like our brains are taking in 34 gigs of information a day. And now I have this like, I got this computer like 2 years ago, and it was like top of the line because like for video production. Video production takes a lot of computer power, right? But before I had this computer, I had the old laptop that's actually right over there, which is the one I took on vacation. You know what it can't do very well? Take in 34 gigs of information a day.
It's your vacation computer.
Yeah, exactly. For Vacation Taylor.
That's right.
But you had a computer you were struggling with that I helped you with about 6 months ago.
Would we call it struggle, or it was just a dumpster fire, Taylor?
Dumpster fire, right?
Dumpster fire.
So what happens when you give an old computer too much information?
It just breaks. Just stops. Done.
It starts
Finito.
going slow, and then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, we're not doing this. It's not. I started being like, what do we do?
Even if you have it plugged in constantly, you're like,
Right.
it's still not working. Yeah.
Especially with your internet back in those days. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Downloading 34 gigs of information would have taken 19 years on your old internet.
See you in 2050.
But I was thinking about it, where it was like, okay, my brain works pretty quickly. So in taking this amount of information, it's like I kind of feel like at times like this, like maybe I'm being prideful, but sometimes I feel like the new computer. I can take in a lot of information every day and kind of compress it and put it out as something into the world, whether it's literally something like that for media or just like thoughts that come into my mind. I'm usually pretty good at taking those things on. But the 2.5 weeks before I went on vacation, the computer started getting my brain, that is, started getting overloaded, where it was just like my brain would just stop functioning, because it's just like it felt like when you open up too many apps or too many browsers on your computer at once, and it's just like, we can do all of this individually, but when you try to do it all at once, we're just gonna crash and none of it will work, right? And that's kind of where I was. But then I started playing out the future of this. What happens? Like this computer, it was top of the line 2 years ago. Now it's okay. And in 2, 3, 4 years, it's going to be time to upgrade again.
It'll be obsolete. Yeah.
Right. But I don't get to do that with my body and brain. So it's like, I need to maybe slow down a little bit and not be taking in these 34 plus gigs of information a day, because I'm going to slow down and stop working and combust like your old computer did.
No, it's kind of like when I work out, they always say, like, you can modify the workout, and they always say, listen to your body. I don't think we do a very good job of listening to our bodies. Our bodies tell us, and then like that computer, we're like, no, I can do it. Watch me, hold my beer, like we're like, tell everyone. And then we look around and we're like, my body keeps telling me, my soul keeps telling me, and I'm not listening. So I'm glad that you get a chance. I'm glad that vacation, sometimes you have to have like a hard reset. Like y'all had a crazy spring, Taylor, full of lots of good stuff and some really hard stuff. But I think sometimes that hard reset of a well-timed break can do wonders for how you walk into the next season. So I'm so happy that you had that right before you walked into summer.
Yeah, me too. And so we were gone for 7 days, and it took me like a full 2 days where I was still like kind of on edge and still super stressed and still slowing down. Like I literally feeling like my brain like starting to slow down, like my body started to slow down, where I was just like, I can sleep, I can rest, I'm not super stressed out, I'm not constantly going. And it was like, yeah, it was like a hard reset, right? Just like you said, where it was like, it took me, so I vacationed for 5 days, but I was there for 7. It just took me a little bit to get into it. But I feel like, I ended up listening to 3 hours of this book just on the way there. And it was funny because I've shared before that like, I get stressed out when I'm like behind on listening to podcasts that I listen to for enjoyment. Like if they're
So
more
wrong,
downloaded,
Taylor.
I'm very broken. So like it was stressing me out. But like going to vacation, I had caught up on all my podcasts. Every podcast I listened to, I was caught up. So I was like,
How many do you listen to?
Oh, too many. I mean, 15 or 20 that come out multiple times a week.
Okay.
A lot. Yeah, there they are.
That is way more than 34 gigs.
Yeah, way more than 34 gigs for sure. But I was caught up, and I was like, okay, now I'm caught up on my podcasts. So now I can listen to my audiobook, and my goal every year is to listen to 12 books, at 6 that are like will help me either professionally or spiritually, and 6 for fun. So like I'll read like a Star Wars book one month, and then like a spiritual, like this spiritual book, or like, and then I'll do like maybe another Star Wars or like a Witcher or something, and then the next month I'll read like a business book or something. So it's like a month for them and a month for me, right? A month to become a better person and a month to relax and enjoy. But But it was very funny being in that moment of like, I need to listen to this book, and like kind of like normally I listen to podcasts on like 1.5 to 2 times speed. But for the book, I was like, this is literally a book about slowing down. So I went all the way down to 1.2. That's as slow as I could go. It felt like I was dying if I listened to it at regular.
I thought you were going to say you listened to it slower than regular speed to make yourself really slow down.
He's an old white guy in Colorado.
And then you should do. Yeah, that would be terrible.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what you just did is how it sounds at 1.2 for me.
That's funny.
But I was listening to the book and I just had to laugh because he mentions in one of the first chapters, he's talking about efficiency, and that like a lot of us, especially because we take in all of this information, we've become very efficient. And like this efficiency might be one of like the defining words for my life. Like, I'm going to do this so that I can accomplish this. I can do that. Like the achiever is my number one thing on. Is it really?
Well, communicator, achiever.
Yeah, those are communicators, like my number 4. But yeah, achiever is my number 1. So it's like it's funny when you were mentioning all this stuff. It's like, I need a checklist. I'm like, me too. We're saying yes too much. Me too. You know. But he's talking about efficiency because we take in all of this information, which is 5 times the amount of information that Americans took in the year 1986.
You don't even know when that was because you weren't even born yet.
I
anyway,
wasn't
keep
there
going.
yet. I hear it was a slower time.
Shut up. Keep going.
But the question that really got me is, he said, is my goal for efficiency eclipsing the love that it was meant to serve? Is my goal for efficiency eclipsing the love that it was meant to serve? So it's like, I didn't come out of the womb 3 years after the year that we just mentioned. I didn't come out of the womb being like, I need to be efficient and accomplish this today and get these 8 podcasts out and then listen to these 8 so that I don't get behind, and then play this video game so that it doesn't get spoiled for me before my friends play it, and then watch this TV show so it doesn't get spoiled before I have to be first to do everything. I have to win this. And it's like, I didn't come out that way. So what happened, right? And the efficiency, I feel like my efficiency is a very good tool that I use to be successful in my life. It is not a bad thing. It is not a detriment, right? Like because of my efficiency, I'm able to do all the work that I do and help the people that I help and be a decent Catholic husband, father, win a state championship in track, and help my kids through their tough time. Like, I'm able to do all of that because I'm efficient. But then I hear this sentence that I'm going to read again because I feel like I'm not alone in this. Is my goal for efficiency eclipsing the love that it was meant to serve? So like, why did I become efficient? It's so that I could like in work stuff, so I could be successful, so that I could do more, so that I could make more people happy, so that more people could hear good Catholic media, so that more people, why did I hone my craft? So that more people could hear a decent Catholic podcast, so more people could hear a decent Catholic speaker, so more people could hear decent Catholic music that helps them have a connection with God. Like, I got very efficient so that I could do all of these good things, but sometimes we agreed that my so much of my efficiency, you literally called me crazy like 3 months ago, or 3 minutes ago. I mean, 3 minutes ago, and I said I'm broken. And at some point, my need for efficiency eclipsed what should be my priorities of like loving the people around me, or loving. I think the person that suffers the most from this is myself. I think my efficiency. My brain has tricked my body, where you said, like, listen to your body earlier. I can't listen to my body because all my body wants to do is sit in that sofa and eat DoorDash and watch this TV. Where my brain is like, no, work. And it's a constant battle between my body and my mind. So I just threw 34 gigs of information at you. What do you think?
Well, I mean, that was a lot, Taylor. I mean, I think this. I think sometimes we are more open to change when we bottom out. In other words, like, you had a really intense spring, and so you went from super, super, super intense to bam, hard reset. But I think that you're more open to how you can change because it was so intense, and then sort of God enters into that space. And I think we open ourselves up to listening and being like, you know what? I literally just walked out of all this stress, all this hard stuff, and now I'm walking into this goodness, and like, I need to find better balance. And I think I mean, I was that way last May, quite frankly, Taylor. I was in the darkest, hardest hole since our son was in the NICU 13 years ago, on the verge of depression. I had my very first panic attack, which was frightening. And I remember looking at my husband. He's like, "I think you need to get some help." But I would never have been as open to it until like I hit this wall, and I needed to be like, "Okay." And we completely reset our summer, and we did absolutely nothing except to go to the pool and read books. And I logged off social media, and it was one of the best summers of my life. So. And I am by nature an activator, a doer, a list maker. I am my worth sometimes is tied up into my accomplishments and things that I can get done because look at all these things, Jesus, like surely you're proud of me. And instead he was just like, dude, Kathryn, you need to slow that roll down a whole lot. And I'm I'm not happy that those hard things happened to you, Taylor, but I'm grateful that you didn't waste the lesson of the hardness and that you look around and you say, how can I love people better? And I think that's a question that we should all be asking ourselves.
And it was interesting because like I've known for a long time that like I fill my life with noise. One, because I like it, and then two, probably because I'm avoiding some things, right? Like one of the other stats these shares that sirens, like ambulance, police, fire trucks, their sirens have gotten 6 times louder since that same year, 1986, just to cut through the noise, just because we're all listening to something. We all either blaring something in the car or literally have AirPods in or whatever. We're like, I knew that the right thing was, hey, I need some silence. I need some time for prayer. I need some time for just silence for the sake of quiet, right? But like, I didn't want it because when my brain's going 1,000 miles an hour, silence sucks because then it's going 1,000 miles an hour and it starts going in different directions instead of being focused on one thing. Like when there's noise, I'm focused on where the noise is coming from because I'm ADD and I have to focus on where the noise is coming from, right? But once I slowed down, it started naturally happening. It wasn't like a big light in the sky or whatever, some big change. I didn't even really notice it, but until after it had happened. But like the first couple of days, I was still like, I need to listen to the podcast. I need to listen to this book. I need to listen to this book about quieting down. Like
I need to put this on my to-do list.
Right, exactly. But I noticed towards the end of the week of vacation, and I don't know when it happened. I don't know if it was day 2 through 5, but it was somewhere in there, where I would just like lay in bed and like, even if I was doing something else, like if I was like doing a crossword puzzle on my iPad, typically I have a podcast or book playing while I was doing that. But like I was enjoying the silence. I was enjoying just being there and not having something playing. And it wasn't a choice that I made. It wasn't like I need more silence in my life, so I'm going to do it. It was, hey, we're going on the family vacation and life just slowed down because we were on vacation. And because things slowed down and my brain slowed down, I guess I just didn't have this need to have something going all the time, or this like I became Vacation Taylor and like didn't have this need to check things off, where I was just like, I don't have to multitask. I don't have to complete this crossword and be completing this podcast at the same time. I can do one or the other and still enjoy it, which is not how I normally live, because normally I'm editing a podcast and answering emails on my phone while playing crossword puzzles on my iPad, like all at the same time, right? So,
But I think we fear silence because it forces us to be vulnerable. And none of us likes to open ourselves up like that. Like if you find yourself, I think I did this last summer, like I was sitting on the back porch. We were at a friend's lake house and I was sitting on the back porch and there's nothing. I was drinking a tea and there was absolutely nothing. And I thought, this is what we fear because our barest selves is open to the Lord. But I believe too that is where the greatest change can happen. I mean, I remember it can be 20 minutes, Taylor, that you spend in silence and your relationship deepens. It has the potential to deepen even further with Christ, as opposed to if you'd gone and listened to amazing speakers, or listened to amazing praise and worship. Like I think we crave as humans. I think we crave silence, but we fear it because it forces us to face being vulnerable.
Yeah. You're good at this. I like you. You figured this out. You struggle with the same stuff I do. You just have a 1 or 2 years
season.
of.
It's just a different season.
Two last little thoughts from this book. One serious one and one funny one. Which one do you want to end with? Which one do you like? Which one?
Let's do serious first.
Do serious.
We'll end with funny. Yeah.
Okay. So Saint Augustine, he had a quote that I heard from a different source. I think I was working on Catechism of the Year. So an episode y'all will all hear in 3 months. But it's a quote in the Catechism from St. Augustine. And one of the things that I had to do before I left for vacation was finish 5 episodes of Catechism of the Year. So like, that was one of the things that I was doing all day Friday before we left on Friday. So it was ironic hearing this. This was in the last episode that I edited before I left for the week. St. Augustine said, "We must empty ourselves of all that fills us, so that we may be filled with what we are empty of." And like that's what you're saying. Like that's kind of what we were just mentioning of like, we have to empty ourselves of all these things that we fill ourselves up with so that we can be filled with what we are lacking, which is God. And how do we get there? Through vulnerability, through prayer, through silence, through quiet, through slowing down, right? And then the funny thing was, so I'm listening to it while we're driving there, and I'm listening to this Christian book while trying to slow down mentally, while trying to speed up in my car, and everyone was going way too slow. I mean, you know how highways of Texas is. I'm trying to go 85 miles an hour, and everybody here is going 10 under. It's like, we cannot get there in 60 miles an hour. Like, we'll never get there, right? But then we stop at one point. So I'm still kind of on edge. And the first moment that I wasn't really, it made me chuckle so much that I finally, like, the edge started going away. So I'm listening to the chapter on, like, the need for beauty in order to, like, kind of recenter, right? To like, we need beauty in order to accomplish all these things that we've been talking about. We need to experience beauty, like being out on a lake, or like by seeing beautiful art, or by hearing beautiful music, so that we can slow down and just be in the moment that we're in. And I'm listening to that chapter when we stop, and I'm in the public bathroom of a gas station listening to a podcast about
which
beauty.
Is completely devoid of beauty.
Right. And I just look in the mirror. I'm like, this is very, very funny. So that was those are my thoughts on slowing down.
If only you'd been in a Buc-ee's bathroom, Taylor.
It actually would have been beautiful, right? It would have
because
been
it's a thing of beauty. You've
really
got artwork walking into the bathroom.
Oh man, Buc-ee's doesn't even know these back roads in where I was exist. I mean, I don't.
You were in East Texas, so
there was like legitimately a road where they were just like, there used to be a road here. Good luck.
Well, we call when we go to this lake house, I joke with my husband. I'm like, it looks like we're driving through the set of Deliverance. Like, this does not look safe. I don't know what's going on here. So yeah.
You heard of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? It happened right around here.
Just around the corner. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm back from vacation, and I feel like I'm doing a lot better than I was, and for some final closure, hopefully some closure this week. So a lot of you have been very, very kind and very praying for us and stuff with everything with our kids. Our kids had a blast on vacation. Middle child that wasn't broken got to do all the water activities. The other two, we thought they were gonna like kind of be sad they couldn't go to the pool or whatever. Like, but they took it in stride. We had their own fun. My whole family, everybody would take turns. Like, hey, we're gonna take the middle one to the pool, and we're gonna take the other two to go on the boat or go, play putt-putt. It just all worked out so well. It was a very good week for everybody. And this week, the week that this comes out, we'll on Tuesday and Thursday we have our follow-up appointments for both of my broken arm kids. So hopefully they are going to redo X-rays and hopefully be able to take the casts off. So we'll have some closure at some point. If they don't get to take them off, it at least will be another week or two. So we're getting to the end of it, which is very nice. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to come back for a short little segment. We're going to talk about marriage. Marriage is not what brings us together today, but it is how we're going to close out the day. Don't go anywhere. The brand new season of Sinner Saint Sister, that is Allison Sullivan's podcast, is out now. Season 10 of her podcast. You can listen to it wherever you listen to this podcast, but also it's where it lives on YouTube is on our Forte Catholic channel, youtube.com/Forte Catholic. You can watch all of her episodes. You don't have to see my face at all on the Forte Catholic channel, which is a huge blessing to everybody. It's Allison and her crew of great guests and her best friend, and it is such a great show. It's one of those shows that I enjoyed listening to before I was even working with it. The first 7 seasons I didn't work on at all, so we're really excited. Her season's going very well, and people seem to be enjoying it. She talks about motherhood. She talks about being a Christian. She talks about being a woman. She talks about like this last episode was on evangelization with one of my good friends, Dr. Alex Gote. So I hope that you check those out wherever you listen to podcasts, The Sinner Saint Sister with Allison Sullivan, or on youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Enjoy. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I'm Taylor Schroll. That is Kathryn Whitaker. I am this evening going to a party, a type of party that I have never been to before. Have you ever heard of a Stock the Bar party?
Are you asking me if I've been or if I've heard of one?
No, I'm asking the listeners, and I'm waiting for them to respond.
Well, I didn't know whether you were like, have you been? I've been, and I've heard of one. Yes.
Okay.
I guess if I've been, I've definitely heard of one, but yes.
Well, maybe he didn't remember.
Fair.
I had never heard of this before. So we are a sponsor couple. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show. We're currently a sponsor couple for one of my former track athletes and campus ministry kids. He's getting married, and we're my wife and I are the sponsor couple for them. It's the second time we've been a sponsor couple for somebody. As you know, as they're preparing for marriage, they get paired up with a marriage that's good or ours, and they're like, hey, here's how we can they might be able to help or whatever, right? So we're going to their Stock the Bar party. It's a couple months before the wedding, and what it is, they're hosting a party where all their family and friends, especially locally, are going to get together. They're catering Whataburger, which is all they had to say to me for me to get there, right?
Done.
And our ticket in is they sent out 4 different bottles of alcohol, like a wine, a whiskey, a rum, or whatever, right? And they're like, we're stocking the bar for the wedding. So like our ticket into this party is bringing the alcohol for the next party that we're going to for free. So it's a really cool idea, and I love this, right? And it was very funny. He was like, on the list. I'm a whiskey guy, so he was on the list. It was like, here's the whiskey was like a $30 bottle of whiskey. I was like, buddy, I'm buying you a much better bottle of whiskey than this. He's like, well, we want it to all be the same for the wedding. I was like, okay, then fine. I'm buying you a nice one, and we'll drink it tonight. So we're going to
whiskey ranges from like $20 to several $100s. It's like whiskey, and those are my teenagers knocking on the door. They're gonna have to figure out how to open it on their own. But
especially because you're talking about your thoughts on whiskey.
No, this is my 22-year-old, so I'm sure he knows all about whiskey, supposedly. Oh, that's so fun. So, do you have a favorite whiskey?
I do. I like all the Glens. So like Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, all those.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
Okay.
They're very smooth. I don't like smoky. I don't like drinking a campfire. I like drinking whiskey. So I like the Glenlivet. It's very smooth. Very, very smooth. So we're getting to the end of like our time of being the sponsor couple, because we just had our second to last like meeting that we're gonna have with them, and we met with like our priest. It was really cool. Like our priest is awesome. I've talked about him before. He came and spent 2.5 hours with us at our house. We had dinner. We talked about marriage. It was like we talked about some fun things. We talked about some very serious things. It was just a really cool for him to be there, and it's our second to last meeting with the couple before they get married, and they both had some thank yous for us, because like we've been going through this process together, and like they picked us because they know us, and we're not like cookie cutter catechesis people. And I feel like the process that they told us to go through was cookie cutter catechesis stuff. So They gave us some videos, and they're, how do I put this lightly? Utterly terrible. They're absolutely terrible, these videos that they want us to watch for the marriage prep.
And so like not good.
Like they're bad quality, but also it's just like super awkward, and you can tell, like it's just so easy to tell when people are lying. So they're like, every video is this it's a new married couple where all they say is that everything is perfect and we've done everything perfectly, and she's made my life a huge blessing, and like our lives are always perfect, and we're perfect for each other, and everything's always great, and we have all become better Catholics, and our kids are they make 101 on everything out of 100, and they've never broken a bone, they've never broken their arm, we've never had any strife or any struggle, and everything's perfect, and we're perfect, and you all suck. And I'm like, they're so annoying. It's so annoying. And so one of the things that they said, like, we stopped watching the videos like 3 weeks in, because we're like, they're just terrible. So we're just like, we're just going to talk and share about our marriage, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because the vows that we take assume that things are going to be half and half, for better or worse. Good, bad, for richer or poor. Good, bad. Like so we have to like prepare people for the sacrament for the good and bad, not just this fake cookie cutter crap of
Well, not just good and bad, or also just mundane and boring, which is
right,
not bad nor good, but
right,
it's reality.
right.
No, they're
Ordinary
horrible.
time. Most of our
A
year is
lot of
ordinary time.
lot of ordinary time. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I think that those are we used to do so the not that you do like family life. We used to have our sponsor couples come 30 minutes. So normally we would meet from like 7 to 9 or whatever it was. We would have them come at 6:30 because normally when they were coming at about 7 o'clock, we were starting to send our kids. This is when the kids were little. We were starting to send the kids to bed. So we wanted them to be there for the chaos. And inevitably, every time they would sit on the couch and watch the absolute mayhem of like finishing up dinner, bath time, bedtime, all this stuff. And we would walk out and they would just look like deer in the headlights. They would just be
Right.
sitting there, we're like, welcome to family life.
That was our
And
NFP class.
yeah. And so now we're done. But it was such a good, and we always waited. That was like not 3, so we were like halfway through. So they had sort of gotten into this. Oh, this is normal. We're going to come. The kids are asleep. The house is quiet, and they were like, no, this is actually what's happening before you walk in the door. And couples need to see that. I actually think it sets them up longer term for better communication and just a better idea of what marriage is really like, as opposed to like, oh, we're going to do this little website on the knot and everything's going to be amazing and we're going to walk and go to Hawaii for our honeymoon and it's just going to be amazing. I'm sure it will be, but it won't be amazing all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like literally driving to our honeymoon. We drove, it's supposed to be like a 6 to maybe 7 hour drive from San Antonio to New Orleans. And we were stuck in a car in stopped traffic on I-10 until like 11:30,
Yeah.
12 o'clock at night. Like, so we weren't in our best moods by the end of the evening. And that was night 2 of being married, like things happen. But it was cool because like one of the things that they said is that like because the priest asked, it's like, what have y'all gotten out of this process? Like, what has the sponsor couple given you guys? And like they looked at us and they both said essentially the same thing of like, we picked y'all because you were real people and we appreciate that this has been a real process and not like cookie cutter crap. Like it's funny. We talked in the last segment about how similar you and I are. This is where we are different. You scheduled in a time for them to enter the chaos. They entered the chaos every time they stepped foot in our house. And we only ever met at our house because we have so much chaos. And they would step in and like, their kids are half naked, running around and just whatever. Y'all go over there. We're going to be over here, So.
Well, we still keep in touch with our spot. Like we did sponsor couple as an engaged couple and we still keep in touch with them. And it's been 28 years since we did sponsor couple.
I'm surprised they're still alive.
They had they had 2 kids. Now they have 5. So they still live in the same house. Like they're in College Station actually is where we did all of our marriage prep, but
Really?
they're a pretty great couple. Yeah.
So they were younger than y'all? They were your marriage sponsor couple?
They were like a baby couple and now they're such a good mentor couple for us. They always have been. And yeah, I mean, we've done 10 sponsor couples. I think we still keep in touch with about 7 of them. So
pretty good.
Yeah.
So since y'all have been a sponsor couple multiple times, once again, today's show has been, Taylor has some insights that Kathryn had 25 years ago and is perfected. So we're going to keep that going here with this. I feel like I've been figuring it out with our second couple, but y'all have done 10. So like, what are the top 1, 2, 3 things that you would tell, an engaged couple or a couple that, are thinking about getting engaged? Like how do you talk about marriage? What are the things that they need to know going into this process before they get married?
Well, we always encourage them to schedule time for dates. Like I think it's easier to do when you're newly married because you don't have children. And then when children enter the picture, or maybe a really stressful job enters the picture, that if you don't schedule time to spend with one another, you are going to lose your connection. There's a lot of, I think, studies that will tell you that communication is important. But I think when you have scheduled time, and sometimes, quite frankly, Taylor, that was like us at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, we would put the kids to bed and Scott would cook a nice dinner and we would just have a dinner in our dining room. But it was time that we had scheduled to really like really be present to one another. So I think that's a big one. I think it's important to do a ministry together in your church and a ministry apart in your church, because I think it's important to get engaged in the community as a couple, but also believe that there are some things that only I can talk about with other women that help me become a better wife. And it's not like I'm going to bash my husband, but it's also like, hey, I'm really struggling with this thing, or this is really hard. Does anybody else like feel like that? And how do we work through that? And Scott needed time with just the guys. So I think this individual time apart is good because yes, you're a couple, but you don't lose your whole identity. Like you still have a whole store of gifts and talents and abilities that need to be shared with the world.
Two become one
And
until Saturday night, and they become two again. Get out, go and do your own thing with the boys and the girls.
oh my gosh, yeah, no kidding. And oh man, there's so many things. I think ultimately your marriage is your marriage. I think we sometimes, and I see it more with the advent of social media, that we start to look at couples maybe that we admire, and instead of using them as maybe, oh, I really admire that about them, or using them as a mentor couple, we start to compare our season of life with their very different season of life, and it becomes detrimental to our own marriage. So I'd say like keep your eyes on your own paper, okay? Focus on your marriage, what you're working through, and don't believe the lie that somebody else that looks like their marriage is all together hasn't gone through you know what to get there, or it could all just be a facade. So I would say don't put too much stock into what other couples are doing. Like keep your eyes on your own paper and focus on what you need to do in your own marriage, and just use those couples as good mentors maybe, but don't compare a dissimilar season to yours because it's not helpful in the long run. That's my
Yeah,
three.
that's one of the ones. That's one of the ones that's been like that last one is one of the big ones for me too, because it's like I feel like, especially whether it's videos like the ones that we're asking us to live, or like every marriage ministry I've ever been to, it all seems so very fake to me. The real marriage advice and like people that I aspire to are people whose marriages I know in real life, because I aspire to be like them because they've been together for 20 something years and they have lived life together, and I've heard the good things, I've heard some bad things, and like it's more real, it's more tangible, and it's more attainable. It's like oh no, because like I can remember like being engaged and being like, oh, this couple prays every liturgy of the hour together every day, and it's like, I don't know, I have a job, man, like I can't do that. So it's like this feeling of like I'm never going to be good enough, where it's just like we had to realize like in our marriage that our marriage is our marriage, because we do some things like where you could look, there's certain things in our marriage where you can be like, they are the most traditional marriage and like traditional like archetypal roles. And then you think that, then all of a sudden my wife is mowing the lawn. You're like, wait a second, this is different than what I expected. And then like, there's just a lot of stuff where we're very typical and then we're very not typical. And it's like half and half. We're like 50-50, very typical, like traditional marriage roles. And then 50% where we're not. And we've had to figure that out. And I think other people have to too. It's like, I don't know, man, like maybe the husband in your marriage isn't allergic to literally everything outside, so maybe he shouldn't be the one mowing the lawn, like what works for you guys? Are you going to do everything together? Are you a more divide and conquer, like how are you going to accomplish this task,
and are you happy? Like I see too many couples,
yeah.
Taylor, that are like they're just miserable, and I think that's not why people get married. Like you become married to become a better version of yourself, and hopefully in the process get your spouse to heaven. But also it can be a really joyful, yes, it's trying and it's hard and it takes work every day, but there should be a lot of joy in your relationship. Just thinking of like your best friend, like you don't call up your best friend, you're like, this person's a horrible person, but I guess I'll call him anyway. Like you spend time with them because
all of my
you
best
love
friends
being
do
around.
that to me.
I don't do that to you. Maybe I'm not your best friend though. But I think that there should be some joy there, in the same way that there should be joy in being a Christian. You should not be, mean or ugly or vile, because that's not what God calls us to. And the same is true in our relationship with our spouse.
Yeah. The last thing is from this book that I've probably talked about on the show periodically before, but it's another here I am on a Catholic podcast promoting 2 books by non-Catholics. Oh no. But I think the best we like being a sponsored couple because we weren't even offered the chance to have a sponsored couple, and we did almost nothing for our marriage prep. Like Sam and I joke, with both these couples that we've done this with is like, I think we have every grounds for an annulment that we need, because no one told us what marriage was, so we didn't understand it, so therefore we have grounds for an annulment, so that's our joke to open up our marriage prep with these other guys. But because we didn't have like court appointed marriage prep, we like did it on our own. And one of the books that was recommended to us that we found was this Protestant doctor, and his wife helped him with the book called Love and Respect. Not Love and Responsibility. That's John Paul II. Everybody thinks I'm talking about that. I'm not. I'm talking about a Protestant couple. It's Dr. Emerson Eggerichs, who sounds like a character out of a Dr. Seuss book or something. But it's called Love and Respect. And I won't get into all of it, but essentially the biggest thing that I found was that there's layers to this, but I'm going to give you the overview. Essentially, there's this cycle. If the husband is in a bad mood and says something mean to the wife, what's her most likely response? To do something mean, or like not, or to something disrespectful or mean, or whether it's to the husband or like, I'm just not going to unload the dishwasher because he doesn't respect me. So then she's going to say something and kind of mouth off to him. And then what is he going to do? Well, I'm not feeling respected or loved, so I'm going to go out to the bar without telling her and go drink or whatever. And then so there's this cycle of like, one person was just having a bad day, and then all of a sudden everybody's angry at each other, right? Where it's like somebody has to break the cycle, because all it takes is one person, like me. If I feel disrespected by my wife, all it takes is for me to do something loving to her despite the disrespectful action, and it breaks the cycle. Or vice versa, where if I do something super disrespectful to her, she has answered multiple times with love, either with words or with actions or whatever, right? One of us has to break the cycle. And it's not going to be the same person every time. Like, it's been me a lot, and it's been her probably a lot more over the course of the 11 years we've been together. But that like our human, like you can feel it well up. Like when somebody says something mean to you, or like you ask somebody, hey, can you pick the kids up from school? And then it's 4:00 and they didn't pick the kids up from school. Like, you're not going to be in your best moods. You're probably going to say something rude, right? Somebody has to stop that cycle at some point and be the quote unquote better person at the moment, and realize that it's going to be a different person depending on whether it's a Tuesday or the next Thursday or the next Friday when these things bubble up.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of times that we've looked at one another and we know that like something's brewing, and I'll be like, you know what? I can't talk about this right now because I'm going to say something that I'm going to regret. So I'm going to go take a bath, and I'll see you in 30 minutes. Like, we've gotten to the point now.
That solves a lot too.
Anyway, but
that's some other marriage advice we may or may not give.
That's another podcast. I'm not your person for that one.
Yeah.
But I'm already turning red. But yeah, I think that you can definitely you start to be able to read each other better, and it kind of goes back to that vulnerability part. Like, are you going to let your spouse see the real side of you? Like, are you going to be completely transparent, honest with them with love? Because if you're just going to be a facade of who you are, it's never going to work. You have to, because disagreement is a part of a normal, healthy relationship. If you're not fighting in your marriage, you're not doing it right, because people are unique and they encounter challenges, and we're human, and we react sometimes in a healthy way. And so when your spouse calls you to task, you should be able to talk through that instead of getting defensive and walking away. I always tell people the best thing we ever did for our marriage was go to counseling. It changed the trajectory of our marriage. So big fan of that. But I think that there are lots of ways that we can communicate better with our spouses and break that cycle.
So now I gave my Catholic advice, I gave my Protestant advice, and now we're going to take one more step, and I'm going to give my non-Christian advice for marriage. You ready for this?
Go for it.
You said that we should love things together, do things together, love things together.
Not all things, just some things.
I think you should find things to hate together. It's very fun to hate things or people together. If you unite on that and you're able to bicker about stuff together behind closed doors, there's nothing like that. There's no other person that you can do that with behind closed doors in the walls of your own house. Just find something. It's a TV show, a person, the dog next door, whatever you can do. Just find something to hate together. It draws you together in ways that nothing else does.
I'm trying to think what Scott and I both hate. Well, the dogs that used to live behind us, we hated those dogs.
Every state, not Texas.
Hardcore hated those dogs, and I'm
Yeah.
a dog lover, but I hated these dogs.
Yeah.
They were bull mastiffs, and they tore through our fence 17 times. I
They
feel
sound
like
like
that's
they're 17 feet tall.
I
Bull
feel like this is
mastiffs.
I feel like that was a justified hate. So yeah, now that
Yeah.
you say that, we equally hated those dogs. I
Well,
was
if you
not
can't
sad
think
when
of
they
things that
moved.
y'all hate together, maybe you need to take that. Maybe
I need to take that
maybe
to
that
prayer.
was just for you. You and Scott need to find something
Got
to
it.
hate together. Well, that's our show. We gave our very
how we're
good,
ending
our
it.
okay, and then our terrible marriage advice. But this was good. It was good catching up with you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back publishing podcasts, because I didn't do that last week because I was enjoying myself. So it was very, very good. So I'm Taylor Stroll. That is Kathryn Whitaker. I'll be back next week. She'll be back in a month. See ya. Thank you guys for watching, listening to today's show. I paused playing Fortnite with my son so that I can record these commercials. So I'm going to go play Fortnite with him now. I hope that you guys are enjoying your summer. If you did like today's show, please hit subscribe, share it with a friend that you think might enjoy this conversation. We'll see you soon. Peace.